So how is the government screwing us over today?
Sire,
An article by Karina Roman in the CBC says, your tax bill could change in 2019 and here's what to expect.
moving quietly.
It's not, this is funny because they say it could change, but it will change. No matter what you do, it will change. From low-income subsidies to passive cash taxation to the carbon tax, and this is where it says it might change, but it will change for everybody, at least anybody who's living in Ontario at least. A whole host of federal taxes and changes come into effect in the new year. Some will hit your paycheck, others your bills. And then if you're a small business owner, there are a couple changes coming for you which you've likely been preparing for months. Okay, so again, this is the government basically trolling small business owners, and Trudeau ran on this grandiose idea that he was only going to tax like the upper class, which, to be honest, I'm against. I'm against just taxes in general. I understand that Canada is a country that basically relies on taxes. The employment of the government sector is insane already. Starting in January, Canadians and Canada pension will contribute increase from 4.95 per 5.1% on earnings of 3,500 and 57,400. Okay, so that means that everybody who is more or less middle class will be affected by it. And then I love that the title is how things might change, but it will change. Okay, that's they're trying to save face with this, trying to say that ultimately it will be a good thing. Sure, I mean, but this is more of the nanny state trying to force you to do things and take your civil liberties away by basically just being big brother and taking your money. Obviously, you're not going to see any of this income, whether if you see it at all, I would argue, because they say that you won't see any of this income until 40 years after it's fully implemented. So this is, basically this would help what my generation would be millennials. But,
Sire,
again, I'd rather make my own investments
quietly.
than have the government do it for me.
Moving into position.
Okay, so partially offsetting the central CPP, the contribution check will drop the employment insurance premium from 1.6 to 1.62 per 100 bull insurance earnings. Okay, that doesn't sound too bad. So then the article says the maximum benefit will increase between 300 and 400 based on whether applicants are single or part of a family. That brings the maximum benefits of 1,355 for a single person and 2,335 for a single parent or a couple. I like how they throw single parent in there because they know like what they're trying to do to the family structure, depending on personal incomes. However, 2019 is the eligibility year. Low-income workers will have to wait until 2020 to get the boosted benefit. Experts say more than half Canadians who live under poverty are working. Yes, and if they are working, you want to tax them more. I don't know how this works in your mind, Mr. Trudeau and Liberals. I don't know how you think this is normal. So then they go on, and gone is the idea, I hope, that people who live in poverty because they just need to find a job. They need to pull their bootstraps and get off the couch, said Michael Bliss from the non-profit advocacy group Canada Without Poverty. As I discussed in the other video, this is an NGO writing in the CBC, which is publicly funded. Why? Why do you have NGOs writing? Like, they're not writing the article, but more or less they're trying to push their agenda.
Ready to trade.
So it's not that poverty is caused by people being lazy. Maybe yes, some of the poverty definitely is. There are people who don't want to go to work, people who are comfortable in low income positions. I feel for them. I am a person who works in a low income position, but what prevents these people from moving up in the world? It's not their low-income job. It's the fact that every single paycheck, the government is taking a massive cut out of their check. You think that they wouldn't be able to save some money to put away for a rainy day if it wasn't for the government taking away and then just saying, oh, we'll save this for you? No. Come on. I'm pretty sure that most people act in their self-interest and would be able to save some money. But I digress. The following thing is I actually wanted to set up my own small business, and this is freaking terrifying. What the next section here is. One of the big news stories of the past year and a half has been the changes that the federal government is making to small business taxes. The most controversial change affects how rules of how much passive income an incorporated small business can hold. Passive income is money earned in interest on funds that sit idle within an incorporated business without being reinvested, used to cover operating expenses. As January 1, business owners can generate up to $50,000 in passive income before they start to lose access to the advantageous small business tax rate. Okay, so you're trying to say that you're trying to help small businesses, but then you screw them over. You're trying to say that you're helping employees who are working under poverty, but then you screw them over. What the hell? Come on. So, it says small businesses pay relatively low tax. They shouldn't pay tax at all. Currently 10% on the first $500,000 of business earnings. But starting January, if those businesses hold an excessive new limit of passive income, some of the first $500,000 earnings will be subjected to the much higher corporate rate, depending on how far they are over the limit. So what this means is basically a small business can no longer save that money. They are effectively being coerced into spending it. And if you've ever been part of a small business, been involved or owned a small business, you know that you have to hold on to some money in order to, there will always be unexpected expenses, off seasons, high seasons, and just forcing them to spend their money, or at basically the risk of Big Brother taking it all away, is just outrageous. This is honestly, I predict this is going to hurt small businesses. And okay, the federal government's goal is to encourage small business owners to reinvest their passive earnings into their business or into hiring more people rather than sitting on the cash. I'll tell you that they're not going to do either. And in fact, what they're going to end up doing is just putting that money away into like less than legal solutions because they're going to be forced to do so. Okay. He says, I think a lot about small businesses are still unaware that some of these changes are coming, said Dan Kelly, president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Okay, yeah, I would not be surprised. This is another problem that we're going to have, is that all these businesses are going to... This is the problem about setting up a small business. You have to basically be some sort of paralegal, at least, to understand the laws, or have to hire many people, because you can't set up a business and not know the laws. And then the laws are just, there's so many of them, and it just stifles small business owners, or people who would even, I don't know, maybe somebody wants to set up a small business, food business, but they're overwhelmed by the amount of laws that they have. They will maybe definitely be discouraged. I know that when I was thinking about starting my own small business, I was overwhelmed by the idea of how many taxation codes, laws, legal things I had to worry about. That it hasn't thrown the idea out, but it's definitely made it contentious to the fact that I have to learn and just give up some of my time just to understand what is implied. And if you screw one of these laws over, you're screwed, man. You're screwed. So, on with the article. In fact, that's one of my biggest worries. I think a lot of firms are just sitting ducks for the CRA. And why do you think they made these into law? Because they're gonna be. This is what they wanted. They want the CRA to have more, well, basically just extend its tentacles into the middle class or into the upper middle class, which are working or involved with small businesses. However, the small tax rate is going down from 10 to 9%. Woohoo! So, they even mentioned this in the article. A move long promised by the Liberal government. Many saw this as an attempt to placate the small business community angered by the passive income changes. So basically, they're like, okay, we're gonna screw you over with the income you make, but we're gonna give you a meager tax break, which I'm all about tax breaks, honestly. Just so we'll take the big cut, but you can have some crumbs. And honestly, I'm glad that they managed to reduce the tax here, but this is just ridiculous. But passive investment increases are going to eclipse any reduction in taxes that a small business might feel, said Kelly. I like this Kelly guy. Dan Kelly, president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. So he knows what's up. Still, federal government estimates the average small business, one that has eligible business income of 107, which is a very small business, will keep an extra 1,600 per year after the cut. You understand that they could be making more money, but you just want to give them as least, you want to stifle as much as you can from the business owners. And for some really small business, especially those who have no passive income to worry about, the tax cut will be very welcome. Okay, I would say that yes, that is nice, but the tax cut should be for all small businesses without this other stupid regulation that you're implying. That would be a good move. That would improve business. But no, you want your tax money, don't you, Mr. Trudeau? 2018 was actually one of the toughest years we've had. We sell a niche product that's been copied. Okay, they're talking about somebody, small business that is located in Ottawa. Her store refurbishes furniture. Okay, so basically they're trying to save face again by throwing like this one example that citation needed if it's even real. Okay, one business might be helped, but you're not talking about the thousands of businesses that are small. You know, like, I wouldn't say they're mom or pop shops, but like I've met a lot of entrepreneurs here in Canada who tell me the same story. They could grow, but it's always the government. The government is screwing them over. I worked for a small business, and it was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had in my life. And the people were honest and great, and they told me like one of the reasons that they can't expand is just the amount of taxes that they have to pay, the amount of regulation that they have to pay. This concerns me for them because I love them as people, and they're gonna have a rude awakening with this here.
Yes, Lord.
Okay, so here we go. Carbon tax. Great stuff. Higher prices at the pump. Possibly the most politically charged tax change coming in 2019 is Ottawa's new carbon pricing system. Jesus Christ. In jurisdictions that don't have carbon pricing mechanisms of their own, Ottawa will levy a tax on fossil fuels of $20 per ton of greenhouse gas emissions starting in the new year, rising by $10 for each year of $50 a ton by 2020. Oh my God. So this comes from Mr. Trudeau, and actually I think it was the Paris Accord, where Donald Trump actually very wisely pulled out, because the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases, now I'll actually look this up just to make sure that I'm correct, are not Canada. Canada has massive forests, and our population is so small compared to some countries such as China or India or even other Asian third world countries that are I shouldn't say third world because they're very developed in some aspects, but our emissions are not comparable to these people. And do you think that they're going to levy taxes on their own things? No, they're not. And what are we doing? We're heading to Sweden levels of memedom. It's just absolutely, I am terrified. The government estimates that once the carbon tax is in place in the provinces where they will be imposed, the cost of liter gasoline will go up 4.42 cents. Why do they say that? They say 4.42 cents. So what they're trying to say that the gasoline will go up $4. I like their wording of cents here. Natural gas will go 3.91 cents per cubic meter, and propane will go 3.10 cents. 442 cents. Yes. Jesus Christ. That deflection. People in those provinces will get a direct rebates to offset the increase. These provinces are New Brunswick, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan, which are usually smaller population density. This is gonna throw Ontario in a bigger tailspin than it's already been, which is absolutely insane for me. Ontario used to be one of the biggest economic centers of Canada. Now it's only Alberta that has anything going for itself. And, you know, why do you think some provinces want to become independent, such as Quebec? Because the only net benefit that any province is raking in is Alberta. Jesus. Okay. I think the government has designed the system in a way that it will prevent us from getting a big ding from a carbon tax pricing, said Nick Rivers, a Canada research chair for climate and energy policy in the University of Ottawa. Okay, at least he's from a university. It's not an NGO, as I was fearing, but that's something. In Yukon and Nunavut, consumers will see cost of fossil fuel rise due to carbon pricing. Okay, you have to understand, in Yukon and Nunavut, to buy some milk, it costs $40. I don't even want to know how much fuel is going to cost now because of their rising. That's absolutely insane to me. But then there's a little other caveats here of
go no further this day, my lord.
Actually I didn't read this. Many personal income tax credit and benefits amounts are being indexed to inflation. The basic personal income rises to $12,000, and the annual contribution limit to tax-free savings accounts will increase to $6,000 from $5,500. Okay, maybe the only saving grace that I see here is the increase to tax savings. I mean to tax-free savings, but that's that. Other than that, it's just why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we? I don't know if it's Mr. Trudeau trying to watch Canada burn before he leaves office, because I live here. I don't want these policies to be enacted. I don't want this terrible legislation to come through. Okay, so what's the takeaway now? The takeaway is, if you're a small business owner, want to be a small business owner, work for a small business, you're screwed. If you drive a car to go to work, you're screwed. And for what? For the government to save face and say that they're doing things, and then 5 years roll around and everybody's in bigger poverty just thanks to these laws that just stifle and stifle and stifle. So what's the solution? I don't know. Mainly that tax break that small businesses are getting without the regulation to their savings. I mean, it's their own savings. The savings that these small businesses are doing. I find that people would argue, oh, well, corporations are sitting on thousands, well, not thousands, millions of dollars that they don't reinvest into the economy. Yeah, okay. Corporations are their own boogeyman. It's like a version of the government that exists without government, like without population consent. But small businesses, man, you're talking about people who, it's your everyday guy running his, I don't know, food truck, your everyday family running their small shop. It's just gonna screw them over. And it's like saying you can have this is an analogy just came to me, but it's like the best analogy that I have at the moment. It's like saying, okay, you can have, you know what, you can have a bank account where you can deposit all you want. The government's not going to take it, but you can't save more than X amount. You're going to be like, what the hell, man? It's like, what's the point of even having a bank account then? So what is going to happen, what I predict, and I've seen big businesses and small businesses alike from what I've worked, they're going to go into less than legal methods. I would say that cash-only type businesses are going to rise. I wouldn't be surprised at that. I wouldn't even blame them for that. But that's the scoop. And see if I film another video later today.